bilateral relationship.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX Deep Dive. My name is Vineet Malhotra, and the swastika in Sanskrit, it is a combination of su, which means good, and asti, which means to exist. This gets translated as all is well. The swastika is thus understood to be a symbol of auspiciousness and good fortune, and is regularly donned on Hindu homes, businesses, printed materials, cars, temples and ashrams. If you're an Indian, you might recognize it from a rangoli your parents make during Diwali or created by arranging of diyas. But for the world, it is often confused with Hitler's Hakenkreuz, the emblem adopted by the Nazi party, which represents hate, fascism and genocide. Indian students across the US are pushing to distinguish India's swastika from the Nazi symbol. This is 15-year-old Meera Trivedi, who has persuaded her social board and her school board, I beg your pardon, to educate teachers about the distinctions. Her campaign began after an 8th grade social studies lesson. Trivedi had grown up seeing the symbol during Diwali, and a priest drew it on her newborn cousin's forehead. She recollects her relatives wearing the jewelry. In May 2025, she presented her concerns to her vice principal, the principal and school board in central New Jersey. Her efforts led the board to educate 35 teachers about the difference between the Hindu swastika and the Nazi symbol. A similar campaign took place in Maryland's Howard County public school system. Hindu students Sesha Vyas and Priya Bakshi began challenging the district's treatment of the swastika. Bakshi said she wanted to wear a necklace bearing the religious symbol at school, but that it was prohibited under district rules. The two students prepared educational material and met with school officials and Jewish groups to explain the difference between the symbols. Their campaign resulted in a policy change in February. The district changed its rules to specifically prohibit the Nazi Hakenkreuz rather than the religious swastika. The change affects nearly 50,000 students. But I want you to look at the following image on your screens. Swastika has been found among the archaeological remains of the Indus Valley civilizations, including at sites such as Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, dating back roughly 5,000 years. The motif appears on artifacts including pottery, seals and other objects. In fact, the oldest known use of the symbol dates back to the end of the last ice age. A figurine carved with a recognizable armed plus sign dating to 10,000 to 13,000 BC was found in Ukraine. How these ancient people interpreted the symbol is unknown. In the Balkans, the symbol has been used for at least the past 8,000 years. Rooted in the now disproven Aryan invasion theory, the Nazi usage imagines that there was a master race or group of people known as the Aryans, some of whom physically invaded the Indian subcontinent. In reality, the word Aryan means noble and refers to the conduct of people. Recent genetic evidence shows that any mass migrations of people into India occurred well before the time period proposed by the Aryan invasion or Aryan migration theories. A research by IIT Kharagpur in 2016 busted this claim. They found that the most mature and geometrically ordered swastika was found in the form of seals. The team showed how the swastika migrated from India through the Tatar Mongoloid route via Kamchatka to the Americas and through the western land route to Finland, Scandinavia, British Islands and Europe. But the propaganda has resulted in phobia for the swastika. In 2022, Canadian NDP's Jagmeet Singh condemned the display of swastikas during the Freedom Convoy protests in Ottawa, saying swastikas and Confederate flags have no place in Canada. His remarks drew criticism from Hindu groups. In 2019, Maryland lawmakers introduced House Bill number 4, which proposed decriminalizing the use of symbols including a swastika or noose to threaten or intimidate people. The bill provided for up to 3 years in prison and for a $5,000 fine. In June 2022, Victoria became the first Australian jurisdiction to pass legislation banning the public display of the Nazi swastika, and the law carried penalties of up to 12 months imprisonment and a fine, while preserving exceptions for the genuine religious and cultural use of swastika by communities including Hindus, Buddhists and Jains. So here is the distinction we need to draw. Swastika is Bharat's gift to the world for good. Hakenkreuz is Hitler's propaganda symbol. Rahul Ishwar, political analyst, joins us on the broadcast to talk more about this. Rahul, always good to have you and good to see you. Well, Hitler died in 1945. He was the man who basically criminalized the swastika symbol. Before that, it was not used by any party which represented evil. The Nazi did it for over 15 years, but then World War II happened and everything for the Nazis was over. Why has it taken us more than 70 years to prove to the world that this is an Indian legacy and it has been misinterpreted, it has been misrepresented?
Two submissions. First of all, thank you for taking this debate. This debate is extremely crucial for Indians, especially Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, many people who actually use it. And I don't know whether you have noticed, I have a swastika in my hand. I have a swastika tattoo in my hand. When I go to Germany, when I go to Israel, I have to cover it up. So I try to educate them. And after maybe, initial conversation, they become convinced at the point, but they say a larger public policy is involved because this is considered as a hate symbol. Please remember, swastika is even, a pattern of swastika is our election symbol, our temple of democracy. All the elections are having this basic symbol. So swastika is one of the oldest symbols, perhaps even older than symbols like Om, as you rightly said, in Ukraine, in some parts of Iraq, in ancient Iran, India, so many places across, especially the steppe regions, they have swastika, engravings, and that's one great symbol. And Swastik, from the ancient Proto-Indo-European, what is generally called as Sanskrit, the mother root of Sanskrit or the Proto-Indo-European language, it means Swastik. Let us bring goodness, well-being to people. Buddhists extensively use it across China, Japan, and all our Eastern nations. Indians use it. So this was a misunderstanding, and you will be surprised to know Coca-Cola had swastik symbol 100 years ago before the evil Hitler and the evil Nazis came. So it is our responsibility, our generation's responsibility to reclaim swastika, cleanse swastika of the evil of the Nazi legacy. That legacy is a stain on the great idea of swastika that should be erased, that should be cleansed of swastika, and we should reclaim back swastika in a positive way. Otherwise, what is really going to happen is hate crimes are happening. For example, many groups in US, Canada, when they are celebrating Diwali, they in a very innocent way draw swastika, and it is seen as a hate symbol. And our Jewish brothers have really suffered. The Jewish brothers and sisters have really suffered because of Nazis. We know the Holocaust is one of the most horrible periods of human history. So our total empathy is with them. But we need to convince our Jewish brothers and sisters that we are totally, with them and totally against the misuse of what is ours, which was stolen by Hitler, which was stolen by their evil ideology, which was stolen by their non-factual, non-scientific, nonsense of an ideology. So we should cleanse it. It is something of our tribute to India, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and all the dharmic cultures which celebrate swastika.
Rahul, one last question before we let you go. As a country and as a government, what can be done in order to make this a campaign of sorts? Because obviously, like you said, if you go to Israel, if you go to Germany, you have to hide the symbol that we should be feeling proud of, but you definitely will be attacked for it in certain places in the world. This needs a large amount of PR campaign. How does the government go about it? The government has brought back a number of artifacts from various countries throughout the world. This is equally important.
They have to bring back and cleanse swastika too. And what you are doing on a mainstream channel, this is great. What our students, Indian students or students with Indian roots in US and all are doing is great thing. We need to continuously educate, radiate this positive truth and information that swastika is just the opposite of Hitler. Hitler is just the Hitler, and the Nazi army are just the opposite of what is called as swastika, and their evil ideology is just the opposite of swastika. People like Buddha have extensively used swastika just on the other side to emphasize ahimsa, what Mahatma Gandhi emphasized later, to emphasize peace. So we have to reclaim swastika as a symbol of peace. The real meaning, Swastika, or wellness, good being to all, or Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, that should be reclaimed. And Om is already sacred. Similar status should be accorded to swastika, and we should have a cultural campaign. Our embassies should actively take it up with the consent and with the good heart of our Jewish brothers, because they have suffered. We have to convince our Jewish brothers and sisters, and also there is a far right that is growing in Europe, as we all know. far right many times is misusing such symbols too. But we have to convince that this is a good symbol misused by bad people with bad intentions or bad reasons. That doesn't make it bad. And even we will be surprised. American planes used to have swastika symbols. If you just check Google, you can see American planes 100 years ago, 2 or 3 decades before Hitler used to have swastika in their flights. So that symbol was cleansed and drenched in the blood of the evil Nazi army, and it is our responsibility and world's responsibility to reclaim it, because swastika, even though it belongs to us, it belongs to the world in a larger sense. It is one of the oldest collective symbols of humanity, with a track record of a minimum of 10,000 to 15,000 years. People can debate how many thousands, but 10,000 minimum for sure, 15,000 maximum for sure. So it's a legacy, it's a symbol that is ingrained in human mind. And many of the mandalas that the Buddhist and the Tantric rituals they have similarity to swastika. Our election symbol has similarity to swastika. So it is our responsibility to reclaim swastika in the most positive manner.
Rahul, always a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for putting this into perspective. Appreciate it. We'll take a short break now. Be right back.